The Pittsburgh Steelers were turnover creators in their 21-14 win over the Patriots, and that showed some good signs about where this team could be going, what the offense also needs to learn. All here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things in the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find this show on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes, as well as our bonus content. Thanks for making us your first listen every day, because we're your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like the players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned for this week's highlights in Mazda's moving the game forward. Mazda, move and be moved. Now I'm through that. If you're watching on YouTube and wondering why I'm wearing a paper bag, I once made a bet with a Steelers fan that every time I pick the Steelers to lose and they win on this show, I have to wear the paper bag of shame. So that's what we're doing to open the show, and I had to memorize my entire opening because of it, so congratulations to that fan. Anyways, Steelers fans, it's a victory Monday here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers beating the New England Patriots 21-14 in ridiculous fashion, but so is life in the NFL. The Steelers defense came out forcing 5 turnovers, not including a sixth turnover in a turnover on downs at the end of the game, a tackle made by Brandon Echols in space that allowed the Steelers to get off the field and seal the win. And lots to take away from this game. The Patriots did move the ball. They converted 46% of their third downs, 80% of their fourth downs, and were able to find answers. But the Steelers' defensive playmakers, who everyone complained about them signing, were very much the reason they won this game. Cam Heyward not only punched out a fumble at the goal line that was recovered, that's saving a touchdown, but he also tipped the pass to Brandon Echols that intercepted right before the end. He also added a sack to his game and probably had a few more pressures in this game as well, and probably was one of the better run defenders on the day as well. He was a huge factor in this game. I'm going to have to review the tape, but I'm pretty sure I'm giving him a 3-star grade this week. Meanwhile, TJ Watt also playing a factor. He gets charged with a forced fumble. He had 2 sacks on this game. He was a factor in this game as well. And there probably could have been some holding penalties that he could have gotten that would have made this game not as even close as it was. And then you just have guys making timely plays at right times. The Steelers often work on attacking the football every practice throughout training camp. You see the defenders, they're taught attack the ball at all times, go after it, rip at it, attack. And you saw it capitalized here. They had, four fumbles that they forced in this game, recovering each of them. They had the interception, huge plays on their part. But I think the thing to really glean from this isn't just the fumbles. It's that you started to see some of the things that the Steelers do when their offense is stalling in the past few years to help them win football games. This was one of those games where the defense absolutely stole away, because the Steelers offense, though it started hot, and we'll get to them in a bit, cooled off and was terrible for most of the second, third quarter, and all but one drive in the fourth quarter. Early on, they come out and get 2 touchdown drives, well-engineered touchdown drives, by the way. That first drive, they just run the ball. Second drive, they move the ball pretty smoothly down the field. But after that, you get a 3-and-out punt in your only other possession in the first half, an interception to start the second half, and then back-to-back 3-and-outs in the rest of the third quarter, and then 5 plays in a punt to start the fourth quarter. Really, it was just bookending the best drives. You had 2 to start the game, 1 to end of the game, and touchdowns for the Steelers. We'll talk about that more in detail and what I think is going on there. But how many times in the past several years has the Steelers defense had to do something ridiculous and crazy to be the unit that keeps the Steelers in the game just long enough for the offense to solve the problem? The answer is quite a few times. In fact, it was like the blueprint for the only way they were able to win games. And we've already seen this year where there were times where in week 1 they won the other way around. The offense was the group that led the victory. This week, it is the defense that did that with their forced turnovers. And it wasn't just their turnovers, it was also the increased pressure that we saw from them. I was impressed by how the pass rush unit was able to get home a little bit more consistently in this game. I have to look at the all-22 when that comes out later today on Monday, and I'll be able to give better reviews on things. But usually when you get more sacks and you get to finish a bit more often, it's because your coverage was a bit better on the back end on some of those plays, and the quarterback had to hold on to the ball a bit longer, allowing for you to get home. Because as I said last week against the Seahawks and week 1 against the Jets, that was a big part of what was going on. The Steelers' pressure was they were dialing up blitzes, they were sending heat left and right, but they weren't able to finish because oftentimes guys were breaking open at the wrong moment. There especially was a problem last week against the Seahawks. The Patriots did find some holes in the Steelers' defense. They did attack. Drake Maye was able to move the ball and, again, keep him on the field for quite a bit of the game. But there were several times where he wasn't. And a big part of that was because I think that the Steelers' pass rush was working in tandem with coverage, being able to get after Drake Maye in this one. Though Patrick Queen won't get a sack or a forced fumble or anything like that. He did come on a pressure where he basically knocked the ball out of Drake Maye's hands while he was throwing. Counts as an incomplete pass, but another example of the heat that he can provide there. Cam Heyward getting a sack, TJ Watt getting 2 sacks, him breaking that 6-game sackless streak that he had going that everyone was raving about. Derrick Harmon also getting in on the sack parade with his first NFL action. How about that? And then Nick Herbig also getting a sack. That's the pass rush getting home. That's the Steelers finding things. And yes, they still need to clean up things. They need to be better against the run, though they did hold Travion Henderson when he was put in the game to 2.5 yards per carry. And the other 2 guys, they made fumble a lot in this game. But I look at the things that you could take away from this game. And sure, there's things they need to clean up, naturally so, with a lot of backups in on defense. But they were able to find ways to make plays, stay locked in, and take advantage of opportunities, and they did that. And that's what good teams do, is that they're able to do that. Now, are the Steelers a good team yet? I don't know. They still have to prove a lot more. I think they have to be a consistent team to be a good team. But in a weekend where there were several blocked field goals, defensive touchdowns returned out of nowhere, sometimes it's just a reminder. It doesn't matter how you win. You gotta win however you can. And that's what the Steelers did in this game. The defense coming up big late. And you got to give the Patriots credit for some things. Drake Maye, I thought, was able to he didn't look fazed by the pressure that he was getting. He was getting hit a lot and he was sacked a lot. Also, Aaron Rodgers not sacked in this game. How about that? But when looking at the way that Drake Maye was playing, he was keeping his focus. He was finding guys. And, I think that was something that was helping the Patriots stay afloat. He showed, shades of being a franchise quarterback at times, but still the Steelers doing just enough in the right spots, especially in the red zone, to win in key spots. And I think situational awareness is a big part of it. Cam Heyward talked about that the last 2 weeks, saying we have to know what the situation is in certain spots and how to defend it. And they certainly were in some key moments in this game. Granted, they lost 4 straight 4th downs, and granted, one or 2 of those probably should have been called back for penalties. But the whole point of this is that regardless of the penalties, you got to stay locked in. You got to stay focused. You got to come out and win your next assignment. For example, TJ Watt is one-on-one with Drake Maye in space on a play action bootleg on 4th and 1 and or 4th and 2, I think. And he's in position to make the play, but Mac Hollins pulls him by his horse. It's a clear hold. The referee standing right there, doesn't get it. It allows Drake Maye to use his athleticism to get outside of Watt, and that leads to a 1st down, keeping the drive alive. Shortly after that, the Steelers would get a turnover on that drive. Because that was kind of like a ball don't lie situation, in my opinion. But again, you got to stay locked in. You got to be able to fight through those moments. And I think it's a good sign this defense was able to do that several times in this game, because you saw it after Aaron Rodgers threw a bad interception, which might have been his worst interception of the year, to Robert Spillane. The Patriots were ready to take over that game. They were ready to punch it in the end zone, get a big score. The whole crowd, they're in Boston, they're in New England. They're ready to go, ready to be excited. And the Steelers come out and get that forced fumble. And you saw Mike Tomlin off the sideline fired up, but he wasn't fired up saying, "Oh, bad offense. I can't believe you did that, Aaron." He was come out and say, "Defense, get them points back off the board for me." And they did just that. So, I know some people want to say, "Oh, well, the Patriots gave them the game." if that's the case, then the Steelers, I guess, should get their win back from the Seahawks for giving them the game last week. That's not how it works. You make plays, you win games. That's what the Steelers did in this game. The Steelers defense deserves credit for that. Now, do they have plenty to clean up? Sure. I don't think Peyton Wilson had a good game again, and he was replaced in the starting lineup by Cole Holcomb, who also had some mistakes here and there, but by and large, this Steelers defense did what it was supposed to do in the most crucial of moments, including at the end of the game when they were given a 7-point lead. They defended it. Brandon Echols making a heck of a tackle in open space where the Patriots, he backed off in a soft zone, made the Patriots think that they had something there, came up, made a really good play, made up for what I thought was a bogus defensive pass interference call that kept another touchdown drive alive for the Patriots early in the game, while he also had that red zone interception. So again, lots of big plays, big moments. That's the stuff that you need to do to come out with road wins in the NFL. The defense, does have things to keep learning and keep working on, but it's better to learn on those when you're coming off of a win and moving forward. But so does the offense have things to learn about. And there's something that I think that I'm taking away from this game, especially that needs to be embraced by Aaron Rodgers, Arthur Smith, and Mike Tomlin, and this entire offense moving forward. We'll talk about what that is next here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, I want to remind you, this show is also brought to you by Prize Picks. It's the daily fantasy platform that where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in. With football back, Prize Picks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes, all in less than 60 seconds. Playing Prize Picks is such a fun way to stay locked in for the season. It's quick, easy, and honestly the best way to follow with football. I love checking projections like Josh Allen more or less than 270 passing yards or Saquon Barkley more or less than 1 rushing touchdown. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup at Prize Picks. Prize Picks, run your game. We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. We continue our show here today. Let's talk about the offense. Now, again, the offense does just enough in this game to bookend the game with 2 touchdowns to start, 1 touchdown to finish, and that being just enough to win a 21-14 game. But certainly there's things that you want to glean from this that you want to say, hey, let's apply this moving forward. Early on, the offensive line was rocking. I don't think the Patriots came out thinking the Steelers were going to try to run the ball on them, and they did, because the Patriots were the number 3 rushing defense. And on that opening drive, you had I have to pull up the playlist again just to be sure. You came out, you ran the ball in the first play. You get Jaylen Warren for 9, Jaylen Warren for 11, Jaylen Warren for 6, Jaylen Warren for 4, Jaylen Warren for 3. Then takes a hit and go for -1. Then you get defensive pass interference. That resets you at the goal line, and then you have a fake jet sweep and a pitch to the outside again at Gainwell, where he jogs into the end zone, and you get the touchdown. That's called running it down someone's throats, and that's a pretty good way to open up the game. But the problem was after that, the Patriots really sat on the Steelers' run game, and I think that was something like that became a problem for the Steelers. You saw it on the next drive where the first play was a run, -2 yards, and it turned out being the passing game that opened things up. You had a 6-yard gain, then a defensive holding that kind of got things going and reset the drive for the Steelers. And then you had another penalty that helped out the Steelers on a pop pass. Then eventually Kenneth Gainwell gets going on the ground, but then it's Aaron Rodgers finding Jonnu Smith down the seam for 21 yards. Then Aaron Rodgers hitting Jaylen Warren out the backfield for 5. Again, moving the ball down the field, and then eventually you culminate with another red zone touchdown pass to DK Metcalf. The Steelers also now 3 for 3 in red zones this week. They were 1 for 2 last week, and I think they were 4 for 4 the week before. I'll need to look at the red zone numbers at the end of the week, but they might have the best red zone offense in the NFL right now when it comes to scoring touchdowns. But the thing was, after that, go look at a lot of these drives that came after that, and you'll see just what happened. Oftentimes, the Steelers running the ball and just getting stuffed because the Patriots were all over it, or if they weren't running the ball, they were throwing quick horizontal passes that, again, the Patriots were all over. And I think that's part of what set the Steelers back throughout the middle part of the game. You had a good 2nd and 5. the to start the third quarter, and then you have that pitch out to Jaylen Warren, and that sets up 3rd and 10. And then this isn't on the play call, and this is just straight up, hey, Aaron Rodgers, you can't throw a ball right to Robert Spillane, which he did on that play, and it led to an interception that would have set up a score had the defense not forced another turnover in this game. But then you saw it throughout the rest of the third quarter. In the first drive of the fourth quarter, the Steelers get the ball, they try running it, it doesn't work. They try, the quick passes to the sideline. The Patriots are all over it. So what do they do on the last touchdown drive? They come out, first play is a quick slant right to Calvin Austin. He gets 9 yards off of that. And then what you see that do is it kick starts the rest of the offense. And then all of a sudden the Patriots can't just sit on the run or the pop pass. They have to worry about other things. Jaylen Warren rips off a 6-yard run. Then they're able to get a play where he gets out in space, catches the ball, goes for 15. And then again, the run opens up, gets you other opportunities. And eventually you get a good situation where Aaron Rodgers is just able to just see Calvin Austin's going to cook his man for a deep route, 1-on-1, 16-yard touchdown. Aaron Rodgers puts it on the money. I think there's a sign here that the Steelers have an opportunity to capitalize on some things. What are those things? The offensive line is clearly not good enough as a unit or cohesive enough as a unit to block its butt off and just win when it's just big on big and they know you're running the ball and you just want 4 or 5 yards anyways and you're going to get it. That's not who they are. But clearly, when you lighten the box and it's them working in space a little bit more and not as congested, they're winning a little bit more. There were some really good blocks, I thought, from Broderick Jones. I thought from Mason McCormick, from Isaac Seumalo. There was a screen pass that I thought was really well executed. I think on the final touchdown drive, there were quite a few plays where I thought the Steelers' offensive line did what it's supposed to do, but just whenever it seems like defenses can just play downhill and be aggressive against the Steelers on early downs, that's when the setbacks start to happen. And this was something we saw last year. We talked to Arthur Smith, and I played the clip for you guys last year when he was like, sometimes it's like an old car engine. You just got to rev it up. I made this joke during halftime, but I think it was actually late in the third quarter. But Jaylen Warren at the end of this game had 2.6 yards per carry. Now, that's not reflective of Jaylen Warren playing poor, not seeing the holes. They just weren't there. But that's a lot of what Najee Harris was going through as well. And I think that's part of what the Steelers need to recognize is that, look, when you're running it on plays where you want to show, hey, we're a dominant run team, they're jumping all over it. It's going to test it once in a while. Don't abandon the run on first down entirely. Don't not do it, but make it something that the defense has to think about more often. Put them in more guessing games on those early downs, because once they didn't get settled in on one thing, the Steelers' offensive line was able to push guys off the ball. They were able to catch them unawares, and then all of a sudden the rushing lanes open for Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell. So I think that there's something that Arthur Smith needs to embrace. And again, nothing's ever wholesale. Like, just because I say, oh, you got to do this, doesn't mean they should pass on every first down moving forward. But I do think they should try their best to set up things that are going to scare defenses and say, hey, like, for example, you saw Calvin Austin. Can't let that guy get behind you. Otherwise, it's a touchdown. Even if you think you got tight coverage on him, you better not give him any passing windows. DK Metcalf, you better get a guy on that guy in the red zone because he's gonna get a chance to go after the ball. I think when you start scaring defenses and making them respect those different things, then all of a sudden this run game that's still looking for its cohesion, looking for its chemistry, it's going to be given more space to breathe and find itself. And that might just be all that's needed right now. Because the other thing is, I don't think the offensive line particularly had a terrible game. Now, I have to go back and look at the all-22 and see what pressures were allowed where. But again, they didn't allow a single sack in this game. And that's improvement against a team that was leading the NFL in sacks. So I think that they deserve credit for that. And again, they didn't have a stellar game, but I think that there were some upsides to that. And so you have Aaron Rodgers coming out, and yes, he only threw for 139 passing yards, and the Steelers were outgained and all that. But again, a big part of winning football is winning situational football, is being better in the right moments. And that's what the Steelers were in this game. And I thought that when it came to the beginning drives and the end drive for the offense, you saw them taking advantage of opportunities that were there. Arthur Smith now has to find a way to make it so that those opportunities present themselves a little bit more frequently throughout the game, because I really thought the Patriots were keyed in on everything he was trying to do in the ground game or on early downs from after the first drive of the second quarter all the way into the last drive of the game. And that's something the Steelers won't get away with against other teams, because other teams won't turn the ball over 5 times. Other teams' offenses will be better than a young Drake Maye, and we've certainly seen that happen to the Steelers before. But again, when you take advantage of opportunities that are in front of you, do win. You get to learn from a win instead of learning from a loss. And to me, that's a big part of getting to the end of the season. You know, we talked with Darius Slay last week. I think it was last Wednesday in the Steelers locker room, and he reminded everyone, like, hey, I was on a team last year that won the Super Bowl, and we started 2-2. You know, we had ups and downs. We had a roller coaster bit, and there were things that we had to clean up. But I think that's the thing here, is that you're cleaning them up now, and you're 2-1. You're right on schedule to be in competition for the top of the division. The Bengals got absolutely destroyed, you know, by the Vikings, which makes next week very interesting in Dublin, Ireland. But again, I think the Steelers are in a spot where, like, they can say, like, hey, you know, we're able to take away some positives from this week while still learning a lot. But the main positive is that you're 2-1, and you're heading on to your international game, and then you get your bye week, and then you get everyone back healthy for the first time all year, and you can finally be the most complete version of this roster that you've seen since the start of training camp. So lots to take away there. But again, I think for the offense, the biggest thing might be passing to set up the run, and not just pop passes to DK Metcalf where it's like basically a wide receiver screen, but I'm talking slants, in-breaking routes, different things that give Aaron Rodgers the chance to see someone win their route and get the ball out quick. And when he does that, and he uses his accurate placement, I mean, both his touchdown passes were pinpoint, the one to Metcalf and the one to Austin. If he's able to do that, it's going to create more nightmares for defenders. Then it's going to create more opportunities for the Steelers in the run game, because then they can't focus on that. And I think that's the primary goal right now for the Steelers offense, to figure some things out. But there's other trends that I think the Steelers have going for and against them. I want to talk about what those are and where the Steelers could be working to fix them leading into their Sunday game in Ireland against the Minnesota Vikings. We'll talk about that next here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, I remind you that this show is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward was Cam Heyward playing a role in back-to-back turnovers by the Steelers defense in the red zone against the Patriots. After Heyward tipped a pass that would be intercepted by Brandon Echols to end the first half, spoiling a red zone possession, the 4-time first-team All-Pro Steelers defensive captain punched the ball out at the goal line on the next drive to open the second half. That kept the Patriots off the board, gave the Steelers the ball back, and that was the crucial play that kept the Steelers moving forward. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure that you're ready for every big game with this can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet, players props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet and get your chance at $300 in bonus bets only here on the Locked On Steelers podcast with FanDuel. We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. I want to take a look at some of the trends that I think could be good and bad for the Steelers. And let's start with the bad real quick, because the third down defense is a little concerning. And again, they were able to get key wins at the key moments, but 6 of 13 times the Patriots were able to convert third downs. And while that's not like the highest ever, it's not what you want as a defense, especially when some of those were third and longs and you had opportunities to get them off the field. I still feel like some of this might be because the Steelers are figuring out their pacing as far as when they're sending heat and how they protect against different things while they're sending heat. Because again, they had coming into this week, they had the 4th highest blitz rate in the NFL. It would not shock me if somehow that they rose to 3rd or 2nd after how much I saw them rush the passer in this game. But Terrell Austin was never a blitzing coordinator. He was always more of a coverage based. Let's, rush 4, maybe 5, and then throw in some different coverage looks behind it. And so I think Terrell Austin's diving in a little bit to a different defense. And again, he's coached the top 10 defense each of the last 3 years, but now with his new personnel, they're trying to switch some things up and get that there. So I think that it's not a great trend that they're giving up that much on third downs. They also give it 4 or 5 fourth downs. But on the flip side, when you're able to get that many red zone stops and finish that way, it kind of can make up for it at times and keeping you alive in games like that. But one thing I see trending up is definitely how the Steelers have learned to finish drives. Again, there's only one possession through 3 weeks where the Steelers were in the red zone and didn't come away with a touchdown. And that to me is a really good sign that if they're able to fix those other things I was talking about, passing to set up the run, moving the sticks more, avoiding those 3 and outs that like they had in the middle parts of the game, and they're able to move the ball and get inside the red zone with a couple plays here and there, Aaron Rodgers has shown that he is ready to go and to get his team in the end zone, making the right read, making the tight throw into a tight window. Those types of things do matter. They do help you out a ton when you're in tight games like this. How many times did the Steelers leave points on the board where they had a red zone opportunity and they had to settle for a field goal? And I think that's something that Aaron Rodgers is absolutely putting in his arsenal. And it could be a good sign for the Steelers moving forward if he's able to keep doing it this way. I do think that there's that some of these are just really good decisions, really good reads on his parts, and veteran moments where he's able to see something and take advantage of it right away. I do think that moving forward that he's figuring that out. He's continuing. That's going to maintain. Maybe not, maybe not like, winning 9 out of every 10 red zone trips, but at least keeping it in a higher percentage, so that if they figure out the other parts of this offense that they need to get going, like when to run the ball, the offensive line getting a little bit sharper, maybe going a little bit vertical at different parts of the day to kind of keep defenses guessing a bit more, then I think this team could be even more dangerous. I think that then the offense becomes really dangerous, because then if they're moving the ball regularly and they're scoring in the red zone regularly, that's going to lead to that's going to lead to points. That's going to lead to wins, and that's something the Steelers certainly can do here. But again, it's going to take a balance, because Steelers defense, has to be better on third downs than they were in this game. I wasn't in the locker room. I was here in Pittsburgh for that. But if I'm the Steelers, I look at this and I say, okay, we made plays, we were able to get things done, but let's keep tightening up what these weaknesses are. Peyton Wilson, why didn't he run with that guy on the second touchdown? As far as the run game, why were they still getting blown off the ball at key points? But I think that they found some answers in that at times with the way that they were able to keep their linebackers clean. Patrick Queen getting 10 tackles, a tackle for loss, and 2 passes broken up. Cole Holcomb, Peyton Wilson, Cam Heyward, Chuck Clark, Juan Thornhill, Julius Peppers, all with 6 tackles each. I really thought there were some good moments. I thought Peyton Wilson had a rough day again, but Cole Holcomb did get beat on the 4th and 2 pitch. But I thought Cam Heyward was tremendous. He was spectacular. Making the money, making the plays that the money that he makes pays him to make, and I think those were spectacular. TJ Watt getting off the schneid and being able to get 2 sacks in this game, I thought was big. And whereas one I think didn't result in a stop on a drive, but one did eventually lead to a turnover in the drive. TJ Watt kind of showing, hey, I'm definitely still a factor. And when stuff like that starts to happen, it starts to build confidence and build strength, and people start to be more comfortable with being aggressive. And I think that's where the Steelers are trying to go for right now. You saw Derrick Harmon get a sack, Nick Herbig get a sack. Now that you get something like this, now you can start to find who you are, and that's what this team has to do, is find who they are in the toughest of moments. And in this toughest of moment, they delivered. The Patriots fought back from down 14, and the Steelers were able to get a lead and then protect the lead late in the 4th quarter. That's what it comes down to sometimes, just making the right plays in the right moments. And again, I know Steelers fans, there's some people out there that feel like, oh, this wasn't a clean win, this wasn't a great win. It's a good win because they were able to find a way to pull it out on the road in a place they haven't won since 2008. And I do think the Steelers take this with, their heads, their minds still locked in on how they need to be better. We'll keep you up to date with all things here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm going to go do my film review and try to get that up for you guys so we can get our stars and skulls grades going, get you exactly looking at who all contributed or didn't contribute enough to the win of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But to Steelers fans everywhere, enjoy your Mondays, your victory Mondays, as you go about your business. The Steelers are 2-1 right now, getting ready to go on the road to Ireland, where technically it's a home game, but it's in Ireland against the Minnesota Vikings, who again utterly destroyed the Cincinnati Bengals. We'll talk more about that matchup and plenty of other things as we continue the week here in the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, wherever you get your social media. It's at Carter Critiques every time. Read my work in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette by going to post-gazette.com. Find me here in the Locked On Steelers podcast every day, Monday through Friday. We'll see you here tomorrow with some Stars and Skulls grades on your Steelers.